Greetings, everyone. I am here at the abode of the Monkey King, having a conversation with the Monkey King himself, Master Paul Gallagher, my oldest and dearest classmate and friends. I'm going to grill him and ask him some hard questions, and I'm really excited to be here. So, Master Paul, how are you today?
I am great, Master Hayward, and I'm looking forward to our little dialogue today. All
so,
right.
so, Master Paul,
Yes, sir.
how are you today?
I am very well indeed, and the more happy that you are here.
I am really happy to be here. You're in a fine fettle.
Yes, I am indeed.
Well,
We could continue with Chinese polite platitudes for quite some time.
yes,
Show people how that is done, but we won't.
it might take too long.
No.
And today I'm having coffee with the Monkey King. To your good health, sir.
Salute.
So, Paul, I just wonder if you would tell people about the first time we met, because that was a magical moment for me. My life changed meeting you, and I would love to hear your recollections of that story.
Well, I was teaching at this personal development center in New York State, Omega Institute. At that time, they did not have their own campus, so we were on the campus of a prep school somewhere in upstate New York. And I guess I was teaching I Ching and some Taoist stuff, and I heard the Master Liang was going to be there, so I was very eager to see him. And then I think the second day, or maybe the first day anyway, walking up the path to the dining hall was Master Liang. And a certain young man who was kind of looking at me like, who's this, you know? And so I greeted Master Liang, and he introduced a certain young man. And I thought it was kind of odd, because a certain young man was looking at me like, what's with this guy, you know? But it was all fine, and then we went our separate ways, and a couple of hours later, I saw this certain young man who is now a venerable friend and master and teacher, doing bagua in a pine grove. And I noticed there was the same bagua as I had learned from B.P. Chan. So I thought, wow, this is very exciting, because that style of bagua was not done really, was very rarely seen at that time in the States. So anyway, after you were done, I introduced myself again, and we kind of hit it off pretty well. And then we decided that after all the events of that day, we would talk. So I was staying in a old building. I'm not even sure what the purpose of the building was, but on the top floor where I was staying, and I was the only faculty staying there at the time, there were all these suits of armor and memorabilia. And so we met at, I think you had helped Master Liang in the evening, you know, get ready for the evening. Then it came out, and we met on the steps of that building, and he was this young guy. I didn't know what to make of him. He knew Tai Chi history. He knew the lineages. He knew the styles. I was blown away, and we just ended up talking for, I don't know, probably half the night at least, 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., whatever it was. And then every night thereafter, we'd have a continuing dialogue. So anyway, that's how we met, and that's kind of continued ever since.
Well, you know why I gave you the snake eye is because one of our other classmates had warned me. He said, be careful with Paul Gallagher. He does not do Tai Chi to music, which did not warrant my concern. But when we were driving out, I said, Master Liang, I'm going to meet Paul Gallagher. And what he said was, without this man, Paul Gallagher, my book would never have been finished. And so I was always thinking, okay, I got to meet this guy. And one thing that was really awesome, I mean, it was late nights, because I would help Master Liang after dinner. We would sit for a couple of hours, and then finally he'd go, young man, you're free. I'm gonna take my rest. and then it was like a cat. I'd go out at night, and the only one that was out was the other cat, and we would talk, and we would talk Taiji and Taoism and history, and it was from that moment you introduced me to Master Ken Cohen,
Yes.
John Meyerson. So many doors opened, Richard Roy, and that was absolutely my good blessing. So,
Yeah, well, it was mine as well.
so
Here
thank
we
you.
are 40 some years later and still having a chat.
It's really been a great friendship. So now I got to ask you a really difficult question. I mean, you've studied with the greats, our common master, Master T.T. Liang, and our common teacher, Master B.P. Chang. You've studied with Master Sophia Delza. You studied with Zen masters. You know, herbal masters. If I had to lock you down and say, who is your favorite teacher? I know it's hard. It's like choosing, something difficult. But if you had a favorite or two favorites, who's your favorite teacher and why?
Well, I was just going to ask you if I could say two. So one would be a Tai Chi teacher, one would be a life teacher. So for Tai Chi, I've thought about this quite a bit in the past. Excuse me. And I would have to say it was Sophia Delza.
Wow.
Because she had a certain glow about her. I mean, they all had a glow. They
Yes.
all had a lot of chi. But she just had a certain gentility and sweetness. And she was hard as nails as a teacher, so she wasn't a little pushover. But I always remember when I would go to the Chelsea Hotel on 23rd Street, go up to the 9th floor, knock on her door, and she'd open the door with a huge smile, and her eyes were shiny. They were like stars. And she would say, "Hello, Paul. I am so happy to see you." And after the 4.5 or 5 hours of getting to New York, it just made me feel good. And I remember the first time I ever went, probably the second, but she had all these memorabilia from China in the hallway as you walked in. So the first couple of times I noticed them, I didn't say anything, and there looked like a bunch of Tang Dynasty figurines there. And so about the second or third time I went to see her, I said, those are really nice copies of Tang Dynasty figurines. And she kind of looked at me, well, they are Tang Dynasty figurines. They were the real deal.
No cheap imitation.
No, but she just had kind of a sweet, exuberant spirit. And then as soon as you got into the work in the class, she was a tyrant. But that was good. That's why I was there. I wasn't there to be entertained.
And what did you learn from her?
Well, I learned from her the Wu style,
Wu style.
which, as you know, it's kind of a highly evolved, very subtle internal style. And I've always reflected that. So I was a brand new beginner. I knew nothing from nothing, and yet I'm kind of going into the PhD style of Tai Chi. So I've often thought that if I had had experience for a number of years and then gone there, it would have been better. But it was a very, very good experience for her.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
she kind of emanated a certain light. There was just a kind of light about her. And
So she embodied the Tai Chi.
yeah,
You've-
and just kind of a joyful spirit. And we had a couple of little rituals. So when I would change from my street clothes into the workout, clothes, we would go around and look at each of her plants. Oh, the jade plant's a little dusty. She'd get a little squirt bottle. I better clean it. Oh, the cactus is a little dry. And so we'd deal with every plant. And then she'd say, okay, so, we'd start in. And she had this unnerving habit. Now you can imagine me, I'm a beginning student. She's the master. And so you're a little intimidated just by that fact. And then she would always have a yellow legal pad on her lap. And so as I would be doing the form that I knew, she'd be scribbling madly on her legal pad. And every now and then she'd look at me and say, "Oh, that's god awful." That's she starts scribbling like crazy, and I'm trying to be very composed in my form, and then I'm
Trying
like,
to relax.
So I think it was her intimidation to try to make me relax or see if I was relaxed. But she'd be my favorite in terms of Tai Chi. I could say that in many ways, BP Chan and Ti Liang were more skilled than she was, and I'll just say that honestly. She was very skilled in the movement and the internal body she knew through and through.
She was a modern dancer, right?
She had been a dancer for quite a number of years.
So she really knew her body. She knew movement.
Yes, absolutely. So the drawback was she did not do application, and me being a young guy, it's like, how do I use it? We will not discuss that. That is so vulgar, we will not talk about it. But I loved her, she was great. And so the life teacher would be Jay Abraham.
Jay Abraham.
Yes. So he was a famous marketer. It's still called the Mozart of marketing. And so anyway, I happened to become a protege of Jay Abraham. And I mean, marketing is an art in itself, but he was an art in communication. So he changed the way I wrote. He changed the way I wrote any kind of copy or marketing stuff. But more importantly, he changed the way I wrote and thought about communication. So in the beginning, all I wanted to learn was some marketing secrets to grow my school or be a marketing consultant. And then later, as I reflected on what he had taught, I thought, no, this guy's a philosopher of life. He's teaching communication skills. So he was great. He was very, very generous, really nice man. And I had taken a course of his, but then later I took his personal protege course with a group in Los Angeles, and that was amazing, very, very rewarding. And I still think of him every day. I've quoted him to you a number of times.
Many times, yeah.
Jay Abraham said this or that or the other, so I would have to say he was number 2.